Yeah.
Do this if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Cansu, you don't have your camera?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, we don't see you. Okay, great. If you want to turn off the camera when you're listening to the webinar, for now it's fine, but we will have some breakout sessions that you will be working with each other, so it's better to turn the camera on. Let's see, everybody's here. Okay, great.
Actually, I see myself.
Say it again?
Actually, I see myself. You don't see me?
No, I think now we can, yes. It's fine now. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see and hear me right now?
Yep.
Yes, Najati, yes.
Okay.
Actually, now I'll give you guys an opportunity to talk about yourself, so we'll know, like, you know, if the cameras and the audio is working fine or not. So Adnan, I think I'm gonna go ahead and start.
Mm-hmm.
If it's okay with you guys, we would like to record these webinars because the embassy wants us on the webpage. So I hope like everybody's okay with it.
Yes,
All
okay.
right. It's fine.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody. Thanks for making the time to attend this webinar today. It's Friday evening, I guess, in Turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 9 a.m. here, so so I appreciate that, you know, Friday evening you are here and doing something, you know, beneficial for you guys and maybe like for the world in general. So before we get started, what I'd like to do is to hear from you. You briefly know us. I'll introduce myself again. My name is Deniz. You met us during the seminars that we did in November. And today I'm not in Turkey. I'm in California. As I said, only 9 a.m. here. And you know Adnan Hoca as well. Adnan, do you want to say a couple of things?
Yeah, it sounds so different to say Adnan or Jeff. I don't know. I think I don't like it. All right. So, as you know, I'm Adnan Yilmaz. So I work at Sinop University in the LT department. So we met in November with Deniz and you guys as well. So we're here for the webinars. And I'm happy to be with you all.
Thanks, Adnan. And I would like to introduce actually one other person of our team. Eyüp, where are you?
I'm here.
Project assistant. Why don't you introduce yourself, Eyüp?
Hello, everyone. I am Eyüp. I'm one of the former student of Adnan Hoca from Dicle University. I'm working for the Ministry of Education now in a public school. I teach for English for the secondary schools. So I'm here to help for the project. And yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah. You probably have received email from Eyüp, and I think you will hear from him a lot as well in the following stages. So when we start, I see Iram here. So as I said, we know you before, but you haven't met each other, and you are all participating in this project from 4 different universities. As we mentioned, we visited Trabzon, Sakarya, Samsun, and Kocaeli in November. So we have, I think, 2-3 participants from each institution. And during the webinars, there will be lots of breakout sessions, kind of like group work, that you will get together and do something together. So it's best to know each other as well. So why don't we start with Iram? And what I'd like you to say, Iram, is like your name, and you guys are all English language teaching department students. Just say your name, your institution, and why don't you say one sentence or 1 minute version of your teaching philosophy? Why do you want to become a teacher? Why are you studying English language teaching? And what kind of a teacher you would like to be when you graduate? So one minute version, okay?
Okay, well, it was a sudden question. I didn't expect it. I'm sorry a bit. And I'm at library, so sorry for my voice. Now, I'd like to say hello, everyone. My full name is Rabia İrem Demirci, but I prefer to use İrem. You can call me İrem in our webinars or our daily life. Okay, I'm studying at 19 Mayıs University in fourth grade, last year of my university life. My teaching, my learning and teaching motto is learning from our mistakes. Making mistakes makes learning more permanent, I think. Okay, I will change the word one day, but I teach, maybe. This is my motto. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, that's all for
Who is
me.
next? Let's see, maybe Aziz?
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Aziz Ahmedov. I was born in Turkmenistan, and I just started at Kocaeli University when I moved to Turkey. It's my 6th year. I started in 2013. I don't know when I'm going to be a graduate, but now I'm enjoying my life. So I decided to join to this project because it sounds interesting and, let's say, beneficial for our field. My philosophy is to have fun while teaching. I think if we want to attract students' attention, we should have fun in the classroom, and we should bring the real outside world to the classroom. So when we activate the feelings of our students, learning can happen more fun. It can be more fun, and it can be more, let's say, effective. So if we activate the feelings, we can do everything in terms of teaching. That's it.
That's a very
Thank
good
you.
point. Yeah, thanks. And let's see, Necati?
All right. I am Necat Sönmez, and I'm a senior student at Trabzon University, and also is known as Karadeniz Technical University. You know, Fatih Education Faculty separated from the main faculty and became another university called Trabzon University. So it's a new university. As I said, I'm in my final year at this department. So my teaching philosophy is basically helping people, since I'm in my final year, I have my practicum experience at a secondary school, and I also see lots of smiling faces on my students' faces. So it makes me happy, you know. So I'm helping them to learn English better and effectively by creating materials, games, and some other funny stuffs. So that's my philosophy, basically. So also the reason I participated in this project is that, as Aziz said, it's really an interesting one. I didn't see such a project in Trabzon before, so I wanted to participate in this project because of that.
Thanks, Necati. Nurten?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, my name is Nurten Civelek. I am studying at Sakarya University. This is my last year, and my teaching philosophy is I believe that the students are the future, and I want to a better future, and I want to make a difference in the world in a good way. I hope that it will be good. I will
That's,
see better. That's my teaching philosophy.
that's good. That's
Thank
a good
you.
one.
Nice to meet you, all of you.
Rayan?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Reyhan Züler, but you can use either one of them. I use both of them. I am a senior student at Kocaeli University, just like Aziz. Well, I haven't really thought about my teaching philosophy, but I believe that we should teach children and teenagers to communicate in language, because from what I've experienced, we don't teach the students to, speak language. We just teach them to get well grades in their exams. And I think the main reason that they should learn a language is to communicate with different people from different cultures. And that's what I have been trying to do in my classes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rayan. Let's see who's here. I can't see. Vildan? Oh no, Vildan spoke. Cansu? But
Could you hear me?
yes.
Okay, my name is Cansu Çalık. I am the senior student at Untitled University. My teaching philosophy is, as I learned more and more about language, I started to have some interest to learn more about the ways to teach people, especially to youngsters. I want to help people all over the world, and that's why I joined this project.
Mhm.
That's all.
Thanks, Cansu. Let's go back to Bushra.
Okay, my name is Vishwa, and I'm also a senior student in English language teaching. So I don't know if it's a philosophy, but since I was a little girl, I've been so passionate about the languages and the world, because it helps you see that the world is much bigger than you think. And I think through the languages or English, whether it's English or any other language, you can help them see it. So you might inspire students, and even if it's just one student, something. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Even if it's one student, it makes a difference.
Can you hear?
Yeah, we do.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Dila, and this is my last year in Trabzon University. Well, my philosophy is basically, actually, when I was a child, I used to listen to English music and movies and series, That's because of that, when I think about English, the joy and fun comes to my mind. So my philosophy is having fun while learning.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want to be a teacher who makes the lessons interesting and fun. And my reason to join this project is to idea that it's time to change. I think we should do something for beneficial for the world, and that's all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And last but not least, Vildan.
Hi, I am Vildan from Sakarya University, and right now I don't know what's my philosophy, and I find it as soon as possible, and that's all for now.
Okay. Thanks, Vildan. Okay. So can everybody see the main page of the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
So this is our first webinar, and as you know, there will be 4 webinar series, and we wanted to start with environmental education. And here is our objectives. To inform you guys about sustainable development and global goals, review several concepts and issues in relation to language teaching, lesson planning, instructional materials, and textbook analysis. And to help you acquire the language and knowledge needed to adopt environmental beliefs and practices. So I would like to start with this poem here. I'm not very good with literature, but I'm going to give it a try. What they did yesterday afternoon. Later that night, I held an atlas in my lap, ran my fingers across the whole world, and whispered, "Where?" It answered, "Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere." So it's a very powerful poem in the sense that, yes, there are problems in our world, and it's all over the world, and every country or geographic location has its own problems and challenges, and environmental issues being only one of them. So I would like you guys to the chat button to answer this question. What are some problems we face in our world? What do you observe? What are the things that, if you had a magic wand that you would like to, touch and change? Just take a minute and just use the chat option. I have hunger, global warming, clean water shortage, pollution, global warming, hunger, droughts, wars, climate change, refugees, yes. It's a very good one, Aziz. People stop dreaming. Racism. Limited natural sources, air pollution. Sexism and racism. Sexism is going to be our next webinar. Anything else that you can think of? Poverty, of course. Well, I mean, if anything else comes to your mind, feel free to add your input here. But I'll move on. As you said, racism, limited natural sources, air pollution, sexism, injustice overall, in terms of education or resources. Think about who gets the best health services in the world or in Turkey, right? Injustice exists in not only in terms of man versus women, but in terms of who gets the best education, who gets the medicine they need, to recover, and etc. So, what do you think sustainable development is? Have you ever heard the term before?
Yeah.
You can again use the chat option to answer. If you never heard the term before, you can just say no. If you want to just make an educated guess. Nothing? Aziz, do you want to explain or talk about what sustainable development means?
Let me try. I guess it means like, make something for like it should last for more than one period. Let's say if we create a sustainable development project, it shouldn't cover just let's say a short period of time. It should be a long-lasting project, or let's say long-lasting developmental project.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what sustainable means in Turkish?
I know, yeah.
Yeah, what is it?
Sürdürülebilirlik or sürdürülebilir. Yeah.
Sürdürülebilir. So it means like it needs to continue over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll watch a video about sustainable development. But while watching the video talks about a plan for sustainable development. So it explains what sustainable development is, but it also talks about a plan, and it talks about the purpose of the project and what kind of issues that they deal with as within the scope of this project. So these are 3 questions that I would like you to pay attention to while watching the video.
Hi guys! Do you have time for a few quick questions? I see you're having a lot of fun, but do you ever stop and think if what you do is sustainable? And do you know what sustainable development means? Sustainable development is to make the world a better place for everyone now without destroying the possibilities for the next generations. If you wonder if something is sustainable, you can ask yourself, can we do this over and over again forever? Sustainable development means that we need to keep 3 things in mind at once: social progress, economic development, and climate and environment. First of all, we have to take care of our planet. We have many natural ecosystems that must be in balance in order for us to live here. The climate system is one of them. This system ensures that the temperature is correct and that the atmosphere emits exactly the right amount of solar energy. When we emit harmful greenhouse gases, such as CO2, we clog the atmosphere. This changes the temperatures on Earth, which again affects our development. How we produce and use energy is incredibly important. Oil and coal are examples of energy we may run out of. Water, wind, and sun, however, will always be here. Using the lasting sources of energy that renew themselves is good for the planet and can provide jobs for years to come. Economics. Almost everything we develop, buy, and trade starts with nature. The smarter we use our natural resources and the better systems we create for a fair distribution, the more sustainable we are. One way to contribute to a more uneven distribution is to be more aware of what we buy and how it is produced. A football is a good example. It travels far before it reaches the football players. First, the materials are made. Then, they print the logo somewhere else before a third country sews it all together. One single football sees the whole world before it reaches its goal. This journey ties us together. If we are to win the battle for a sustainable future, we have to play with fair rules that applies to everyone. Social progress. We humans are part of nature, but we're also important resources for the world. Just like water, the forest, and the sun, we have minds that can create the strangest and most creative things. But for us to be the best versions of ourselves, there are certain things that must be in order, like having equal opportunities to education, safety, food, and medicine. This provides greater opportunities for us as human beings, but also for the planet. We just have to think in new ways. These 3 must work together. That is sustainable development. And there is actually a plan for this. all the countries of the United Nations have agreed on a joint plan for sustainable development. But for the plan to work, we need to cooperate, and we need you to be on board. Are you with us?
What are some of the themes that you saw in the video? You can think in relation to the problems that we talked about briefly.
Social progress, economic development, climate and environmental issues, and all these should work together, but not destroying future generations' sources. This is the plan, I think, sustaining our life without distracting future generations' sources.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Okay,
I think
actually.
Go on.
Okay, who was speaking?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, actually, I think it's all about living things. It depends on people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think it's the issue of just cooperating with all living things on the planet, not destroying one another while just, let's say, creating a good future for our species, like for human. We should cooperate with we should think about all animals, plants on Earth, and we shouldn't destroy it. We should work all together and think about them. I think the issue of this project is to, let's say, create an awareness about those, let's say, unsustainable things that are going on this world.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yeah, Adnan Hoca wrote fairness. I would like to highlight a couple of things from the video before we move on to the next slide. So I think one of the nice things or the premises of the video is that we need to make the world a better place for everyone. So not just for a small portion of people who we call the privileged, but also without destroying the possibilities for the next generation. So we don't have the luxury to think that this is our world and we do whatever is best for us. No, like we need to do something that's, yes, good for us and also sustainable for the next generations. That's why, sustainable development is really important. So the question that the video raised was, can we do this over and over again together? So can we have, for instance, like fresh fruits every year or in every season for a long period of time? Think about all the fresh and the green vegetables that you used to have and how tasty they were. The tomatoes were like tomatoes and they tasted really well. They smelled like tomatoes. And now it's kind of like, this plasticky thing. And then they define social development as social progress, economic development, climate change, and sustainable development was defined as social progress, economic development, and climate and environment. And you'll see in a little bit that, there are like sub-themes within these broad themes that, this project is trying to address. And the other good thing that the video mentioned is that being the best version of ourselves. So you need to think about, as language teachers, as like a single human being, are you the best version of yourself? Is the best you can do to contribute to the world, or is there more that you can do? And we're hoping that, this project will help you, achieve that goal in becoming the best version of yourself. This is a step. We appreciate extensively that you are doing this project with us, because that shows that there are people, like-minded people, out there who wants a better world. Yeah. Okay, so there are 2 more videos that we'll be watching. So again, I'm hoping that this will work, but let me know using the chat option if it doesn't. Brief summary of the global goals, and you will now see a bit broader explanation of what the global goals are.
Hello, it's me again. Just catching up on these global goals. There's a lot you can do to help get the goals done if you get creative. But getting started can be hard, and we all need a little nudge sometimes. Especially when the problems can seem enormous from where you are standing. I'm here to nudge you. And funnily enough, the best place to start is right where you are standing, with the person you know best. You. Lots of things you do in your life have an effect on the goals. From what you buy, to what you eat, to how you treat other people. Even one little change will make a difference. And who knows, you might even start a chain reaction that ends up changing the whole world. So how do you decide what to do? First, spend a bit of time asking yourself some questions. What are you like as a person? What do you care about? What's really important to you? Start a list of things you care about and think about what you could change in your life that might help improve them. Maybe you love sea life or having clean water for you and your friends to swim in. So, if you refuse to use a plastic water bottle, straw or bag, you will stop them making their way into the sea when you throw them away. Or maybe you care about getting a good education in a school that feels safe. So if you make sure you treat everyone with kindness and respect their rights, then others will follow your lead, and everyone will feel happy and ready to learn. Or maybe you're thinking about the environment, and so you start eating less meat each week. If you eat meat at all, that is. Or maybe it's something completely different. Do some research and work out, what could it be? Don't forget to tell other people what you're going to do, and maybe they'll do the same. Suddenly, it's a movement. Then, go out into your community with the global goals in mind and discover how it could be better. Find out by looking around you and then looking some more. Ask people what they think. Talk to lots of different people so you get a range of answers. Ask everyone. Sometimes the quietest voices have the best ideas. And don't jump to conclusions or leap on your first idea. Thinking more will make your ideas even better. You could work with friends or family, as some things are difficult to do alone, and it's nice to have a team. Maybe your local park could do with a clean-up. Could you get some friends together to tackle it? Maybe there are people where you live who are hungry. Could you organise a food drive? Maybe there are places you and your friends avoid because you don't feel safe. How could you work together to change that? Or maybe it's something different. Do your research and work it out. Imagine what it would be like when it's done. Work backwards and think about all the changes that are needed. List all the people who need to be involved and get started. You'll find some things work and some don't, but it's good to keep trying. Once you've achieved something locally, you'll feel confident about thinking even bigger. The people in charge of running your country have a lot of decisions to make, so it's important we don't let them forget about the goals. If you show them how much you care, they will work harder to make them happen. Whether it's the environment, health, schools, or almost any issue you are passionate about, there is a goal, and someone in the government who should look after it. And don't forget businesses either. They have people in charge of sustainability too. Ask them what they're doing, tell them what you're doing. Maybe you can work together. You could even ask to meet them and start getting things done. And don't stop there. There's the whole world to think about. Let the United Nations know that you care about the goals. It will help them get all the countries in the world to work together more. The best way to make sure they pay attention is if you tell them how you got started and what you and your friends have achieved. You'll be giving them a real-life story to tell, and stories can be really persuasive. Now you know what you need to do to help. Take a deep breath, jump in, and show how much you care. I'm just saying.
Okay, so what is really nice about these goals, you will see actually in this slide. I'm not gonna go over each goal here. You see like no poverty, zero hunger, reduced inequalities, and peace and justice, strong institutions, life on land, life below water, climate action, gender equality, quality education. So these are some of the things that we'll be discussing over and over again during these webinars. But what's nice about these goals is that they are very clear in terms of what they want to achieve, and it's not very easy, but it's doable if we work together. And it describes or it portrays a wide range of themes or issues that we can address in the environment. Okay, so there are certain links here that you will see, and we'll post the PowerPoint on Canvas as well. So if you are more interested in global goals and sustainability development, you can always go to Canvas and explore these things. We'll move on to our main theme today, which is environmental education. But the other reason that we talked about the United Nations global goals is that it gives you, we are hoping, an idea of what you can do in your social responsibility projects. We talked about these things, maybe like building a library or helping elderly or fixing the playground for the children. And actually, we'll look into how we can, you have stories. Remember the video said the stories are important, and share these stories. So maybe we'll get to share with the United Nations and send these projects over there as well. Who knows? Okay. So these are our themes, and you see how they align with the global goals and sustainable development. So today we'll talk about environmental, next week gender equality, the week after LGBT issues, and then last but not least building and integration, especially given the number of refugees in Turkey. I think it's very timely to talk about that one issue. Why do you think we start with environmental education though? Nobody?
Because that's really important. It's like connected to all of us. So we should talk about environmental education.
I think.
Yes.
I think the other ones are about human, but if we don't focus on the world, there will be no human to talk about. So we should save the world for tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
It's like an umbrella term. It's like an umbrella term, so we started this one.
I think it's important to start with where we live.
Where we live. Hello?
Hey, it's...
Okay. Anybody else?
And all problems are start from education, and all problems are solved by education. So we started from the most general one, I think.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to add something. When I look at the themes, for example, gender, LGBT, and peace building and immigration, these can be solved within such period of time, but establishing a sustainability around our environment is really hard than establishing a success in an awareness for gender equality, LGBT, and some other themes.
Yeah,
so.
Very good point. All really good points. Anybody else? So yeah, when we thought about like how to organize these webinars, we thought like we should start with environmental education because it's something that concerns everyone and everyone should be concerned with. So it's not something that anybody can ignore and not worry, because like everybody from like all perspectives, even the privileged, the rich, or you know, poorly educated ones, everybody is equal when it comes to environmental education. When climate change hits, it hits everybody. When fires happened in California, it was in Los Angeles, and the celebrities, how some of them were burned down. So everybody is equal in front of it. And it's also an issue that that school-age kids can really connect to, and everybody has a say, because you see the climate change, and we see, like, you know, you saw the storm in Antalya. Like it's everybody. It's something that everybody can relate to and say something about. So that's why we picked environmental education. So before we move on to environmental issues, we would like to talk of issues in relation to language teaching, because as you know, after each webinar, we ask you guys to write a lesson plan, and we are hoping you'll get a chance to use these lesson plans in your practicum sites. It's okay if you can't, but like that's our hope eventually, because as you said, you know, like we want kind of like a ripple effect. Like we are, you know, talking about these things, and we hope to talk about these issues with your own students. So we'll talk about stages of lesson planning, thinking about learning activities and lesson sequencing, and, you know, thinking about instruction materials and text analysis. And of course here, we're not going to lecture you about, like, you know, how to design a lesson plan or how to choose your materials. All these issues are actually related to social justice teacher education, and how you talk about, you know, these themes or many others in your classes. Okay, so starting with lesson planning, there are certain issues, and I'm sure you studied these in your methodology classes, that you should think about. So the first one is, what kinds of authentic materials do I have access to that might support the activity, and how can students learn from those materials? So in these webinars and in the handouts provided on Canvas, we are providing a list of like authentic materials that you can use. For instance, you'll see at the end of this webinar that will give you headlines and links from newspaper reports about environmental issues. So you need to think about what kind of authentic materials you should be using and how you will make use of materials, how you exploit them. Why do you think authentic materials are really important for social justice teacher education?
Because they are directly related to the humans. So
because yes, anybody else?
Because they provide. Aziz, you can go on.
No, you can go on, please.
I think authentic materials provide a sense of reality to the students. They have something real in the classroom, so they can relate to it. They can actually visualize what it can be used for.
Yeah. Aziz?
I was going to say the same thing, I guess. Like, it's a real proof of what is going outside. So bringing them into the classroom can be more effective.
Yeah, exactly. Even during our webinars, we'll share anecdotes from real people and real events because it's more powerful. You see, okay, this person really lived through it, and these are the consequences of equality. We'll talk about modes of communication. So when you plan your lessons, again, this is something that you should consider if they are going to be engaged in which modes of communication. And I'll mention what these are in the next slide. And also we need to think about like what components of culture we are addressing. And Adnan actually talked about these a little bit in the seminars. Products, practices, and perspectives. So again, I'll briefly mention what they are. And you also need to think about if there's a good variety in terms of these modes of communication, components of culture, and also like models of classroom organization. If you're doing a whole class activity or group work activity or an individual work. So modes of communication, this is actually ACTFL framework. ACTFL stands for American Council of Teaching Foreign Languages. So ACTFL is not concerned with teaching English per se, because it's an American organization. So they are concerned with teaching other foreign languages, and foreign languages here usually are Russian, Chinese, Spanish, French, and etc. So this is their framework of modes of communication. And when we talk about modes of communication, or when we talk about teaching a language, usually we talk about teaching skills. So we talk about how to teach reading or listening, speaking, and writing. But the problem with the four skills, when we approach them as like single units of analysis, that they are not actually separate skills. So when we speak, we listen, right? I need to listen to you to be able to provide an answer. Or when we read something, we think about it, or we talk about it with our friends. Think about, like, you watch a TV show and then you go to school the next day and you're like, oh, this is what happened, in Breaking Bad or something in Turkish. So, these skills work together. That's why this framework is really nice, because it moves away from the discrete four skills analysis to thinking about like what communication is all about. So starting with interpersonal communication, it's very self-explanatory. It requires two-way interaction and negotiation of meaning. So this is what we do when we talk to our friends and engage in a conversation, provide and obtain information, and talk about our feelings, opinions, and etc. Presentational mode is a bit different. In the personal mode, you have an immediate audience. You talk to your friend. It's kind of like a ping pong game. But the presentational mode, the audience is distant. So for instance, you write a paper and you don't have an immediate audience that you get feedback from. examples are presentations. For instance, think about lectures when the teacher lectures about a psychological, a theory in psychology, let's say. So it's more a one-way communication in that sense. A process approach to writing is a good example for presentational mode, because think of all the drafts that you write and you submit, but sometimes you don't know like who is reading, or you only have the teacher as your audience. Any questions so far?
No.
The interpretive mode is the one that relates the most to our case, to social justice teacher education, and I'll explain how. So interpretive mode involves understanding and interpreting written and spoken language on a variety of topics. So the interpretive mode requires working with a text. And when we talk about a text, it can be an authentic written text or an oral text. So an audio is also a text. An input should be meaningful and content-laden. And we talked about this in the seminars, how content-based language instruction goes in line with social justice teacher education, because whatever we teach, when we are in the classroom, we're not just teaching grammar, but or a system of rules, but we teach content. We talk about professions. We talk about the things that we enjoy doing, or we talk about how to buy things from a grocery store. So there's always content to what we teach. So that's why the interpretive mode is really important, because when you select your text, your materials for teaching, you are also determining the content that you are teaching, and why not use it for something beneficial. So learners, maybe you studied this when you studied like how to teach reading or listening. Learners are not tabula rasas. They are not empty slates to be filled. They come with their own background knowledge and experiences and interpretive strategies. So when we talk about interpretive strategies, these are contextual guessing, guessing the meaning of a word, or guessing what's going to happen next. Like when you watch a movie, you're like, I think she's going to do this. Or, when you read a book, you always hypothesize about what's going to happen next. And then it's a continuous cycle of like hypothesizing and then confirming or seeing, this was interesting, I didn't see it coming. So these are all interpretive strategies. So the important thing here is that you stimulate intellectual and affective reaction. So, whenever we read something, there is always an intellectual response and also an affective response, how we are effectively or emotionally, influenced by the things that we read or see in our daily lives. So this is why the interpretive mode is really important for social justice teacher education. Any questions so far? So when we talk about components of culture, we talk about perspectives, practices, and products. So perspectives are attitudes and values. So when we talk about attitudes and values, it's more about how we approach things. So think about how beliefs about certain ethnic groups has affected access to employment. So who gets the better job, or the evolution of beliefs about homosexuality and marriage laws in the target language cultures. Until very recently, I was reading about this. I think in 2008, became legal in California for gay couples to get married, and now there are more and more states. But think about how things are in Turkey. So even talking about the evolution of these things will help them say, okay, this is how things were perceived in the past, and this is like, this is where the current beliefs are. Adnan, do you want to add something?
No, just was kind of summarizing what perspectives could be. So just a few words to let people remember.
Okay, yeah. So practices are, they arise from how people interact. So language use and its implications, specific context. So when you think about how you use the language in school, even in your first language, like the way you use the language with your professors versus with your friends differ, and in the job context as well. And also think about, like, if you have, people from less privileged backgrounds, and how you use the language to talk to them, and how sensitive you are or how sensitive you should be in those contexts. And also, like, ways that communities express themselves in the face of oppression. And I have a very good example for this. Have you ever heard the dialect called Lubunja?
No.
No.
Lubunja, you know what it is? You can Google it. It's real. And a friend of mine actually wrote his dissertation on Lubunja. Lubunja is the dialect that the LGBTQ community uses mostly in Islam. So if you talk to an LGBTQ member from Istanbul, they will tell you lots of words and phrases in Lubunja. Another example that Adnan provided here, that the interactions that takes place during service encounters, and how you address, for instance, the waitress or the waiter, and how these things are different in other countries. Like, you can call the waiter garçon, and then garçon comes in Turkey, but you can never call the garçon or the waitress here in the States. You need to wait until they come and ask you what you want to order. Yes, different kinds of discourse requires different kinds of language use. And the last one here is the products, and products that focus on access to and relationship with tangible and intangible resources. When we talk about tangible resources, tangible things are things that you can hold and grab and smell and feel. And intangible ones are more abstract and more difficult to define. So, for instance, how access to clean water affects developing countries and communities, and the ways that laws on immigration shape decisions made by individuals. So if you, for instance, I had a student here last year, a Syrian international student, and she said she's stuck in the States because of Trump's travel ban to Syria. She cannot go back to her country. I mean, yes, she can, but if she goes back, she cannot come back, and her family cannot come and visit her because it's not allowed. So she was just like stuck here for 2-3 years, like away from her family. In our case, for instance, if you want to study in the States, this is a risk that we are all taking, right? Like, we don't know, any minute maybe Trump decides to do the travel ban, and will you get your visa, or will you be able to come here? Will you ever be able to go back to Turkey? So all these issues are about products. Any questions so far? Okay, so I'll talk about listen sequencing, and then I'll leave the floor to Adnan in a little bit. You're familiar with listen sequencing you design your lessons, you have done teaching before, you start with a warm-up activity, and usually there's a control practice, semi-control practice, and then free practice. So this is more like the traditional approach. I'll provide alternatives to that approach actually. So you can start with a preview activity where you engage students with an inductive activity. An inductive activity actually what it does is it's kind of schema activation, figuring out what they know and what they expect to know, or what they expect to be what's coming. So you give hints of the whole lesson, or the theme of the lesson. And in the review stage, you read something or you watch something and you work on the direct explicit instruction. And there is also the review stage where they actually put their knowledge into practice. So this is the preview reviews cycle. Next one is very similar to this one, but it's more cyclical. You'll see. So you start again with like brainstorming and activating the schemata, the background knowledge, and then you provide a little bit of input. And then you work on the input, you elicit performance, you provide feedback, and then you provide more input and more feedback, more performance, and then you have the closure. So it's more like a, the pace of the class, you start a bit slowly, and then you peak, and then, you have more wind down activity. And then you need to have an activity for enhancing retention. That means like making sure the learning happens and they remember it, and transfer. And this usually happens with a project or an assignment that they, work on the theme and produce something new, or transfer it to a different context. Any questions so far? Okay, so I'll pause here, and I think I'm going to close this one. So Adnan Hoca will share his. Yes.
So Dennis, is this the last version of the PPT that you're sharing, or?
I think so. I opened it from the Dropbox.
All right. So do you mind if we keep it here? Because later on I'll use the breakouts so that I don't stop sharing the screen and switch in between.
Okay.
Do you mind?
Okay. So yeah. So just maybe.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So do you mind making it full screen?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
All right. So are you okay with my voice? So can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So I have 3 questions to start with the remaining part of the presentation. So the first one is, what are some common themes that occur in all English language textbooks? I know you had will have in your fourth grade course book evaluation, and you have these practice course, and I'm sure you deal with somehow some course books or textbooks. So what are some common themes that are covered in these course books? Do you mind sharing your ideas with me or with us? For example, in Unit 1, what is covered, and then in Unit 2, and then in the rest. What are some common themes? Yeah, sports.
Jobs.
Yeah, nature, jobs, animals, environment.
Greetings, for example.
Yeah, greeting. All right.
Food, cuisine, food.
Yeah, food.
Transportation.
Transportation, culture. Festival.
An ordinary day.
Yeah, an ordinary day. Buildings, food, there are a lot of things that are covered in these common textbooks. So let's keep these themes in our minds, and then link it to social justice issues. So what are other social justice issues that would relate to these common themes? So for example, imagine food. What could be something related to social justice and food?
How to diet.
How to diet?
Are we talking or chatting? I don't know.
So
should we talk or chat?
We're fine with both.
Okay. So how's the diet?
How to diet? So what else? So what themes?
For example, we talked about problem, right? Maybe we can relate these topics with it. With this, for example, in the world there are so many people can't eat anything.
Oh yeah.
Suffer from hunger.
Exactly. Exactly. So thinking about other themes, what other social injustice issues can be related?
Luxury cars and enormous buildings.
Yeah.
Are also, you can see.
Maybe festivals.
So how can we relate them to social injustice or social justice?
Distribution of food or something else.
Jobs. It can be about jobs, like choosing career or being aware of what to do or what those jobs do in the future. Or are they going to have, let's say, a good career?
But how do we relate them to social justice?
Let's say like 10 or 15 years later, there won't be like some jobs. So there will be new different, let's say, technology related jobs. So we can create awareness of our students. We can direct students in the stage of, let's say, making decisions what to be, or let's say, to when they choose career or when they choose a department in the universities.
And also seeing white men on good jobs caught my interest, caught my attention on English course books, textbooks.
And also the pilots are always men and the nurses are always women.
Yeah.
And women always presented as housewives.
Yeah, very common of textbooks. So the last, do we have any more?
Animals.
Animals. So what can you say about that? Would you like to speak a little bit about that?
I actually told you about that in Trabzon. I saw something like there was an activity on the book. It was saying that I like monkeys, but I don't like snakes or horses. And when I see that, I was shocked because the book gives students a choice to not liking animals, and this is not appropriate.
Oh yeah, of course. The ecosystem is a whole, so we cannot separate some, or we cannot put them in some of them in a vacuum and then get rid of them, because they all kind of fulfill a function or mission in this ecosystem. So if you get one of them out of this ecosystem, then the whole system will probably collapse. Yeah, that's very right.
Yeah.
So the last question would be, would you classify them, these themes as primarily addressing products, practices, or perspectives? So, Dennis talked about these things a few minutes ago. So how would you relate these themes to these three different topics, like products, practices, and perspectives in terms of activities?
I think perspectives is more important to address in a classroom, because the first thing that we need to change in our students, if there's anything wrong with their attitudes about jobs or environment, we should actually address them first and try to build consciousness in them. For example, I recently saw a video about how only just a little bit of all the computer engineering graduates in America are female, because they don't actually think that they can be successful in such jobs. So if we can change that in girls in our classrooms, they can be more encouraged to be, engineers in the future.
Yeah, indeed, all these practices or the activities or the selection of the materials kind of perpetuate what exists in the society. So it kind of goes on. It's like a very narrow circle that's going on. Yeah. All right. Dennis, do you mind just moving on the next slide? So some of the common themes that occur in traditional textbooks are school, house, clothing, health, travel, city, education and work, relationships and environment. And of course, under each of these themes, there are different topics like, for example, school, we can talk about classes, supplies and materials, schedules. So these are some basic themes and the related topics of these themes. So how do you think you can integrate environmental education into these themes? Or can we really integrate environmental education in these themes?
In some topics, we can do this.
For example?
Health,
travel,
maybe?
Health, yeah. Clothing.
Mm-hmm. So,
or even it can be in house, relationships, environment itself, education, maybe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's, for example, focus on house. So how can you create something into that particular theme?
Like what kind of items we can recycle at home, what we can do in our houses that can benefit the environment, like we can turn off the lights when we leave a room.
Mm-hmm.
Like
very good examples, yeah. So, you know, basically in language teaching, we have 4 skills and 2 language areas, vocabulary and grammar. So are you going to, I mean, what method or what kind of specific technique are you going to use to embed all these things into these themes? Are you going to do some listening, reading? What are you going to do?
I think showing them some videos can be more beneficial than just making them listen to a text, because when they see something, when they see examples, they can actually use them in their own lives. Like if they see a video with a child who shows them what they can do in their houses, they can you know, recycle something in his house. Like he takes his notes that he's not using and puts them in the recycling bin, then they can actually do that at home themselves.
Yeah,
I think it's better to use someone, an example that is close to their age. They kind of benefit from that.
And I guess that's why a few minutes ago we talked about authentic materials. They're very important because they provide a kind of set the link between real life and the classroom setting. So not just the classroom as an abstract platform to learn something, but it's the very real life itself. So do you have any more ideas?
I think drama activities is also very crucial for students.
So would you like to elaborate on that a little bit? So how can we do that?
Drama activities can create awareness about different things. Like we can help students to experience life in the classroom environment.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very, very good ideas. So Dennis, do you mind? All right. So on the previous slide, there were these themes, and now there are some environmental issues related to these themes. For example, for transportation, we can talk about carbon emission or car-free cities. You know, like cities in Istanbul, traffic jam is a very serious problem. So we can include all these issues into these themes and give some messages, at least try to develop or cultivate some perspectives in our students regarding these issues. So like food, industrial, agriculture and meat production, organic and community gardening, genetically modified organisms, these are very important things. So the list is very long, and regarding each theme, I thought somebody's speaking. All right. So regarding each theme, there are different topics or angles that we can embed and give some kind of messages about environmental education. Denise?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we do.
I think I just want to add that, like, you know, this is to show you that whatever theme that you are presenting or discussing in the class, there's always a connection to environmental issues. So it can easily, this is a topic that can easily be integrated into your curriculum.
Yeah, for example, art and literature. If you just look at here, it says representation of nature and eco-humanities. So when you're talking something about art and literature in your ESL or EFL classroom, you can still embed these very particular themes or topics into your classroom. There's always a way to integrate.
You can start with the poem that we started with and then, you know, move from there.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. So, well, while we're talking about textbooks, so we'll ask you to do something for us for the blog reflection. It's going to be a blog post. So we want you to examine the textbook that is used in your practicum class or the one that you are using in your classes. You might be teaching at some private courses or somewhere. So if you are using a course book, we want you to focus on this course book, and by focusing on these course books, we want to draw your attention to two different points. The first one is write down some of its features, like chapter sections or supplemental materials that you feel particularly support social justice education. So social justice education is our focus, and when you look at the textbook or the particular units or the math materials, we want you to focus on this particular theme and examine or search whether these themes exist or not in the course book. And write down features that you think would be more difficult to adopt or support social justice education. So maybe there is a topic or a unit that you believe to be difficult, but once you post it on the blog, and then we can come up with some ideas to help you out. So, and we can suggest you some ways in terms of environmental education or social justice education. So sometimes, you know, some topics are really difficult to handle in terms of social justice, but asking some people or by posting on the blogs or somewhere else, there are a lot of people out there who can help you out to kind of bring all these issues into the classroom.
Mm-hmm. But keep in mind that this is not a course assignment, and this is a book reflection. So there are no right or wrong answers. Just look at a textbook, analyze like one chapter of it, and like, you know, and we discussed several issues here and talk about like, you know, how you would exploit the chapter or the book in relation to social justice issues.
Besides, you know, in the Ministry of Education, oftentimes the books are prescribed by the ministry. So, I mean, you are not allowed to use some other books. So that gives you a chance to kind of adopt some materials in the book or some activities so that they can be fair and just in terms of delivering the correct messages. So, for example, you are in the coursebook that you're that you use in your classes. There's a unit which focuses on jobs, and the representations used in the coursebook kind of trigger some kind of incorrect messages in terms of social injustice. You can focus on that, and you can write it on the blog, and you can suggest your own way of implementing it in the classroom as well.
Any questions?
What should be the levels of books? I wonder.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? That's okay.
Yeah, it could be young learners, it could be middle school, high school. It's just up to you.
And I don't have any practicum classes this year, so I will choose some of them. Thank you.
All right.
You said you are doing tutoring, right, Iram?
What? I don't know.
Are you teaching at a school now, or are you giving private lessons?
No. Okay. I don't give any lessons this year.
Okay. I mean, choose a book that you used or you are familiar with, or maybe
I have lots of textbooks. Yeah, I have lots of textbooks.
And you had this coursebook evaluation. Even you can use the coursebook evaluation. I mean, the book that you used for this particular course.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. It's fine. Okay.
So we can use a book different from our practicum class textbook?
I mean, it's better to use the one that you use in the practicum course, but if you don't have that, then you can use another one.
Because they use the ministry's book in practicum, and I don't know if they can be beneficial. I think some other publications can be better to analyze because they're more flexible.
So, Dennis, I guess you can be flexible with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we said it can be a practicum or it can be something that you are using in your classes. So, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think we don't want to make your job more difficult. Just pick something that's that you are familiar with and you, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so our next slide.
Sorry.
No problem. So, environmental education. Here are 3 questions. So are you aware of the recycling practices in Turkey? Do we have recycling in Turkey? Have you observed anything?
We got toothbrush here. We got toothbrush in Kocaeli. When you get near it, it really stinks. Like, really. But I just recently checked the website. I think it is possible to arrange a field trip, I guess. I'm not sure if they allow it, but I think kids can see it because they really have the processes that they take garbage, they transfer them, and then they just recycle them. I think that would be really good to just go check what they're doing there.
Yeah.
That would be a good field trip project, yeah.
What about other guys? Have you seen anything related to recycling practices in your local environment?
We have poşet 25 kuruş. And this is the first biggest step of Turkey, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think the people's reactions are for paying for plastic bags?
Actually, they're just thinking about the money, not the environment. So
they don't believe that they're actually doing this for the environment. They think that they're only doing this for the money.
Yes.
So.
All right. Any more?
I'm not the one to answer that.
All right. So do you know if Turkey allows genetically engineered foods, which we call GDO, or how you can avoid them?
100%.
Are they allowed in Turkey?
I think so.
Or
Most
nobody checks.
of them are.
Would you say that again?
I think most of them are actually allowed in Turkey, as far as I know.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you have any methods or techniques to avoid such kind of foods?
Not eating.
I think there is no way to avoid them because there is no organic bazaar in my hometown. So we are eating food with GDO.
Yeah, whatever we find. So how about the treatment of animals or the use of pesticides? What can you see in Turkey or in your local environment regarding the treatment of animals and the use of pesticides?
What is a pesticide? Do you know?
Yeah.
And they're very commonly used in Turkey.
Yeah.
Because there is this lack of education regarding the use of pesticides. So they are used randomly. And what about the results of using pesticides? What happens if you use a lot of pesticide?
Well, when we use pesticides, I think most of the vegetables and fruits get affected from that as well. Like the chemicals in them get transferred into fruits and vegetables, and when we eat them, we actually get those chemicals into our bodies, and our health actually gets at risk because of pesticides.
We can call it pesticide intoxication, I guess.
Yeah.
That goes beyond that as well. The use of a lot of pesticides, they go through the land, the soil, and through water, they kind of go into the seas or the rivers. And then we again drink this water, and the animals in the sea also, and we consume the fish, so they kind of return to our body.
Eventually.
Yep. All right. Then let's move on. All right. So as teachers, what are the principles that we need to follow when we teach or when we present environmental content? So first of all, we need to respect students' individual beliefs and practices. So we need to empower students to take the responsibility for their actions. So, this is very important. So we need to teach our students that they have the responsibility of what they are doing or what they are believing in terms of practices, perspectives, and products. So they are not alone in this ecosystem. Whatever goes around comes around. So this is very important. I think we need to kind of give this message to our students. So they need to have that kind of understanding that they're responsible not just for themselves, but also for other people. I think that's very important, and we need to empower our students in that sense. So also we need to present the issues, environmental issues, in an interesting and relevant way. So, just bringing attacks into the classroom might be very boring. So just a few minutes ago, one of your friends said, so we can just bring some videos from real life and then present all this content in an interesting way so that students can find something in these videos or activities that they can relate to. Because it's not something abstract, it's directly related to their own life. All right, and so by doing such kind of activities, we raise their awareness and provide opportunities for positive action. So we might think that, well, we're doing all these things, but at the end of the day, our students will not do something. But believe me, somehow they will have this awareness in their mind. And sometime later, if not things get worse, they will take to action to stop it. Because they share this environment, they live in this world, and they have to do something about it. Because if they do not, at the end of the day, they will suffer from it. So maybe kind of like not threatening or terrorizing our students, but we need to give some kind of messages to our students so that they have this awareness, and we need to provide all these opportunities so that they can take action. And I believe that this project in this sense is very important. I mean, well, the purpose of this project is, to raise this awareness and to take the action. And, within this project, we're going to carry out 9 small different projects, which will be the real practices of social justice. And I believe in that sense, this is very important. I'm kind of praising our project. And it's also important that teachers take a student-centered approach to environmental content. The purpose is to avoid one of the risks of bringing global issues into the language classroom. That's indoctrination. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So we can move on to the next slide. So what indoctrination mean, we can explain here. So first of all, before we move on, I'd like to get your ideas. What do you think indoctrination is? What comes to your mind?
Forcing students to believe only one thing or something you said. Forcing students to believe.
Believing in something like without questioning.
Yep. Yep. All right. I think we can move on. So teachers should come from the perspectives of openness and inquiry, but not dogma and persuasion. And they should neither be portray themselves as the arbiters nor the decision makers of environmental responsibilities or priorities. So as teachers, we should not position ourselves as the decision makers. So we bring this into the classroom, and we believe that they are the most important things, and they should be handled. We're not going to take this approach, but rather give our students the chance to decide on what they are going to do. They need to have this critical thinking to look at the issue from a different perspective and come up with their own ideas. So as teachers, we need to develop a critical thinking and decision-making skills in our students. And we also need to help our students acquire the knowledge and language skills to learn about and positively affect issues that matter to them. So we're not going to impose some certain or rigid ideas on our students, but rather provide some room or spare some room for our students to make their own decision and look at the issue from a critical lens. So regarding all these points, regarding these principles, then we have some suggestions for our teachers. But before moving on the suggestions, there's a challenge that's oftentimes faced by the teachers of English language. They oftentimes say we lack the knowledge about environmental issues to teach them effectively. So here are our suggestions. Denise? All right. English language teachers, cover content outside of their expertise. When we teach reading, listening, speaking, or other skills, we oftentimes focus on different contents like art, science, food, and we use all these fields as content to deliver particular language items or linguistic items. So, we are aware that we're not experts in these topics, but still we can say a few words about these things. So don't be afraid to use these things in the classroom. And we're not responsible for providing all the answers. As human beings, we also lack knowledge, and that's very human and that's very humane. We cannot be the expert in every field and provide all the answers to our students. So just feel free, and we need to be comfortable that we're not the only one to provide all the answers, but the problem is over there, and go and search and find your own answer. So we should design language learning activities for meaning construction and engagement in research. This is very important. So we're not going to create meaning for our students, but rather allow our students to co-construct these meanings. I mean, what I mean by co-construction is that we're going to construct the meaning or the solutions all together, or the answers to these problems all together. I mean, we're not going to make our students expect that I'm the teacher and I'm going to come up with the response to all these questions, but rather we need to make our students believe or think that we're going to do all this together. And we need to acknowledge the limits of our own knowledge and model lifelong learning. So kind of giving the message that learning never stops. So we're going to learn throughout our lives. And we should accept environmental issues as the concern of everyone, but not merely or only the duty of experts to solve. So it's all of our problems, not just teachers or experts. All right. Oh, no, we can just go on, right? So we need to highlight the connections between environmental issues and students' everyday actions. So that means, I mean, environmental issues and students' actions go hand in hand. They kind of impact on each other. So my actions, I mean, the environmental issues obviously have some impact on my life, and my life, or what I do in life, has some impact on environmental issues as well. So by kind of highlighting the connection between these two paradigms, we can give some messages to our students. And as teachers, we can give students the freedom to select some of the course content so that they can have in their classroom, because imposing certain topics on students might be kind of challenging or problematic on the side of the teacher, because if the topic is not interesting enough for the students, obviously that will be a kind of problem for the teacher. And that's why we need to spare some room for our students to select the course content. And we can embed environmental issues into lessons smoothly, not necessarily sparing new units or stand-alone courses for them. You know, just a few minutes ago, we talked about different themes, and well, we don't need to kind of have a different unit in our course book or in our classroom so that we can talk about environmental issues, but we can do that in every step of our teaching practices. I mean, just we need to kind of come up with right activities or appropriate activities so that we can embed all these topics in our teaching practice. So in that sense, we have a process flow. So first of all, the first step is learning new information, and then emotions and soul searching, and then empowerment and action. These are three important steps that we need to kind of do in our classrooms. So as teachers, we shouldn't abandon the students at the point of awareness raising and outrage, but we need to kind of come up with some solid solutions to these problems as well. So students can find themselves overwhelmed by the sheer number of problems, paralyzed by the countless alternatives, and feeling powerless to make positive impact. You know, if we impose a lot of issues on our students regarding social injustice or environmental issues, then our students might feel discouraged, even kind of feeling the hope or joy of living. So we should, as teachers, we shouldn't do that, but rather we should design activities to empower our students with the language they need to take positive action and give them direct experience with potential solution. So kind of we need to follow up all these steps so that at the end of the day, our students can come up with some solutions to problems. So as conclusion, I have a question here. So do you think teachers need to protect their students from environmental topics that could potentially make them uncomfortable or force them to reevaluate their long-held belief? Should we do that?
Well, I don't think that we can protect them from any such thing. And if we don't bring those topics up in classroom, they will still face them in their real life. Like we have spots, TV spots, and we have advertisements, we have movies. They will come across it somewhere in their life. So instead of being unconscious about what they can do about the environment, we can just show them ways that they can participate in some kind of movement or some kind of project so that they can do something about environment. We shouldn't protect them from such topics.
Exactly. I mean, like, we need to accept them as part of that problem. So we're not doing that. I mean, this problem exists not because of just me or you, but it exists because of all of us. And that's why we need to take action to solve this problem altogether. So any more ideas?
I think we should protect our students to some extent, depending on their level of education. At primary school, we should protect them to some extent to encounter this kind of problems.
Just correct me if I get you correctly. So you mean like so the kind of activities or the practices that we bring into the classroom should have some extent in regarding these problems, because like with young learners, exposing really serious problems to these students can kind of have some negative effect on their psychology. Am I correctly?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They will be psychologically affected, and
Right.
it will affect also their future.
Exactly.
I
Like,
think.
yeah, to be more concrete, like if you bring some videos of hunger from Africa or some other part of the world, and then if you use this particular video with young learners
about wars, dying of people.
Right. Yeah, as teachers, we need to be aware of that as well. I mean, the level, the age of our students are also important in that sense. Thank you for bringing this issue up. Right. Do you mind just clicking on? So it says, being a lifelong learner and a responsible global citizen means being open to new information about the consequences of the choices that we make. And that's very important. So if we think we're responsible and we're lifelong learners, then we need to be aware that whatever we do in our life, they have consequences, and these consequences kind of occur because of what we choose, what we kind of decide on. Yeah. So it's time for our breakout sessions. We're going to watch a video, and then we ask you to kind of design or come up with an activity around this video. And say 1 minute or 2 minute long video, right, Denise?
Yeah, it's very short.
So we're going to watch all together, and then I'll create the breakouts. So after creating the breakouts, you will work in groups, and we kind of ask you to come up with an activity. Is this okay?
Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
So
So in case you'd like to watch it again, I'll post it to the chat. So
so you posted, yeah, okay, good. So I'm going to create the breakouts, and we will be very happy if you just kind of come up with an activity around this video. So then as I'm studying the breakouts, should we have 3 breakouts so that
that's good, and then we can be, you know, in each. So separate me and Adnan and Ayub. Sorry.
Sorry. But I can't see people. Okay. Three. It will take some time, so because I'm kind of assigning people to breakouts. Okay, Iram, and then we have Nurten to breakout 2. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Do we have somebody missing?
What are we supposed to do now?
So, Rayan and Bishra, you watched the video on YouTube. We all watched all together. So we're going to create an activity around that. It could be listening, reading, whatever comes to your mind. It could be a pre, while, or post activity. We want you just to kind of develop an activity around that particular video. You know, the man was under the sea or ocean, and there was a lot of garbage, a lot of plastic. So
Yeah.
what kind of activity can we do around that? Like
I think the students can come up with the solutions. So I would suggest speaking. I would want to know what they're thinking.
All right. So you're going to talk to Rayan about that, and you two will kind of create an activity. So how the activity will start, and how it will flow, and how it will end. All right. One activity will be enough.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave the room, and I'll just move around the rooms.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So we can actually do a speaking activity, like you said, but I'm not sure if it should be a pre or while activity. Like they can watch the video and then they can come up with what they can do about cleaning that area. Like they can come up with some solutions about it. Like this video was set in Bali, but we can just, oh, where did the video go? Oh, here it is. Just hit the video somehow.
Yeah, the video.
Oluşturmalarını isteyebilirdik.
Basıldık mı hocam şu an?
Let's speak in English.
Will be much better. So did you get what we're going to do?
Yes.
Yes.
But we were just talking about the age of the students. and the number of the classroom.
That's a good criteria.
So we will determine these things, right?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, after deciding on the age and level of the students, and then you can think about, is it going to be a speaking, reading, writing, listening, or vocabulary activity, and how the activity will start, and how it will flow, and then how will it end. So these are very important things when you think about or design an activity.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to move around the rooms, and then I'll be back to catch you speaking Turkish.
So maybe we can integrate the speaking and writing skills
and children relations in their daily lives.
Adnan, how much time do we have?
So I mean, for the whole webinar, you mean?
No, for the breakout session.
All right, I guess 2 or 3 minutes will be enough because we're running out of time.
Okay. So maybe can we put all these 3 ideas together in in a more coherent activity? Because I think Nurten's was like more an opening one, or maybe Nurten and Vildan can put their ideas together to design the main part.
Say that?
Yeah, post listening.
Okay, we say post listening. We came up with an activity.
Good. And I'm really happy to listen to your activity.
Michelle, would you like to talk about it, or?
I don't mind. Okay, I will just talk about it and then you will conclude it. First, we thought, after listening to the video, after watching the video, students will talk about what they saw, or maybe we can show another place that is similar to that video in Turkey, so they can see that this is all around the world, not just in some particular place. So it might broaden their perspective about the whole situation. And after asking for their opinions and giving them a chance to talk about it, or they can come up with a solution, we thought about making them write little letters about the whole situation. And that's where Rayan is going to talk about.
Yeah, we thought that they can ask for help from some institutions or the ministry so that they can get some help and they can just have an action plan that can help clean that area in Turkey that we located in our homeland, so that they can actualize that action plan with the help of some people in charge, because they can do that themselves.
So indeed, you are kind of turning that into a project.
Yeah.
They don't have to actually do that, but as teachers, we would like to see what kind of responsibility they can take when they're writing those letters. They can they see what the problem is? Can they come up with a solution? Do they know how to ask for the help? So we would like to see that. They don't actually have to send the letters, but I would like to see what they can do.
They would at least know that they can do something at some point.
Yeah. So what about the age and level of the students?
Probably high school,
high
or
school.
middle school.
Yeah, because they are going to do some writing and writing,
and
that kind of requires some high-level skills in terms of linguistics.
High school, probably 10th or 11th grade.
Yeah, 10 or 11.
So it's going to be a kind of writing class or a main course?
Well, it can start with speaking.
Got it.
Like, it can be a 4 skills class. Like, it can be content based, so that we can focus on some kind of topic, and then we can just arrange the activities around them. Like, we started with listening in this one, and then it turned into speaking and then writing.
Got it. So it's kind of main course, right? Main course.
Yeah.
Got it. Ooh, cool. So I'm just going to visit the other rooms and then end the breakouts and share our ideas.
Okay.
Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So I'm writing now what we just talked about. We said post listening and we started.
Şimdi girişimiz nasıl olacak?
Dialogue.
Hello.
They are supposed to be
Nurten, yes, they are supposed to be.
in the sea.
Hocam, should we write our lesson plan?
No, you don't have to. Just kind of,
Okay.
so that you can talk about, when we're all together, sometimes we might forget what we talk in our breakouts and then what are we going to say now. So just a few notes to kind of help you out, remember. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think they will work with pairs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
They are supposed to be fish, and they will create a dialogue, then act it out.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
If you are apologies. If you are done, I will end the video. The breakout, so that we can meet in the main room. Are you done?
All right.
Kinda, yeah.
All right. Hi. So I'm looking for Denise. She's not here.
We are also looking for where are the others.
Well, when I check all the people, Vildan and Deniz are missing. What happened to them?
I don't know, we stuck here.
Yeah.
All right. So are you done? So that I can kind of...
Yes, we are done.
All right.
We are done.
So I'm going to take everybody to the main room.
Okay, yeah, we are ready. Okay.
So I guess everybody's here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Denise,
Yes.
you. I was looking for you. All right. So I guess we're done, and I guess people are ready to share their ideas with us.
We actually selected Iram as our session spokesperson. So
Me again, the victim first.
sorry.
Okay, it's no problem. Okay, we thought that where are my friends? Ildan is here, and here's my other friend. Okay, we thought that I taught this for preschool and primary school children, and I want them to make some rubbish, and I will hang them from the ceiling, and I want them to live here, to take lessons here, and to make them what I mean is to make them uncomfortable under all these rubbish. And how does it feel? How does it make them feel if they were a fish? And I will call them as fishes. I will name them as fishes, and I want them to think about that just. And also, and mother and children relationship, and mother fish and children fishes, and they will do some drama to understand it, to feel the situation better. And our other ideas are my friends' ideas, and a fish, and stay away or something like that. The fish. What was that? Something like that. Vatos. And
Stingray.
What?
Stingray.
Stingray. Okay, sorry. Stingray will talk about their problems and what they feel under all these rubbish in the sea. And they will be asked some inference questions following it. And this is our lesson plan, something like that. And if I forget any point, please, my friends, help me to fix.
I just want them to be from the kids. They want to be fish, and they just say how they feel if they were fish in this water.
Or how they feel if the world was like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we say, I think.
Anybody else?
So Rayan and I guess it was Bushra.
Yeah.
So would you like to go on with your activity?
Me or Raya?
You decide on that.
What?
You can decide on that. I don't want to force people.
Okay, I decide for Raya. You can start and I can go on. If she's here, though. I don't know.
Unmute. Unmute. She's on mute.
Hi. I thought that I unmuted myself, but I didn't. We thought about a post-listening activity at high school level, maybe 10th or 11th grade. We thought that we can start with a speaking activity. We can ask the students what they think about this video, what it made them feel, and then we can come up with a location in Turkey that has the same problem. We can say, look, this was in Bali, but we have this in Turkey as well. And then we can ask them to come up with the reasons and solutions of this situation and what they can do about this. And after that, we thought that we can follow up with a writing activity. They can write petitions or letters to institutions or the ministry so that they can get help from them to come up with an action plan, that they can do something to solve that problem in here. But they can't do much about Bali, but they can do a location in Turkey, for example, in Antalya. So we thought that they can actually take part in a kind of project.
That's really good. I mean,
The flaw.
like localizing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thinking about, okay, who cares about Bali? But we have the same problem here.
Yeah, we wanted to let them know that this happens everywhere, not just in some kind of a specific part of the world.
Yeah.
So we wanted to let them know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody else? I think there was a third group.
Yeah, one more group. Nejati, Jansu, and one more person.
Yeah, if you want, I can start.
You can.
Our activity is for 7th grade. It is a drama activity, but it includes both speaking and writing skills. Students will imagine that they are fish, and they will write a dialogue, and they are supposed to act it out. So it will help them to increase their drama and empathy and imagination skills.
Mm-hmm.
Nicely done. So I guess things were done.
Okay. So we show them the plan that we had on Prezi.
All right.
This was actually a lesson plan that was prepared by one of my students last year. And she used this video and she prepared this lesson plan. We'll show you what she has done. So before starting the class, she didn't show them the video. She just made them listen to it. So think about, you just close your eyes and you listen to it, and then you are just underwater and it's so peaceful and relaxing and etc. So she asked them where do you think you are? What are you doing? And etc. And then she, what did you picture when you were listening, and etc. And then she showed them the video, the realities of the video, and she asked, now how do you feel, or what words or phrases that come to your came to your mind when you watched the video, and how did your thinking change, and talk about it with your neighbor. So this was the peer review stage, and then they had an activity based on the video. They talked about the waterfall of melting ice and etc. So let's see. So we provided the link for this Prezi as well, and ended with, okay, what can we do about environmental issues? Because that's what we were trying to aim at. So just like mentioning the problems will only raise awareness, but we need to lead them in a way that they will think about how to solve these problems.
Yeah, just kind of empowering them to take to action. There was this process flaw. So raising awareness is not enough, or just kind of raising some emotion is not enough. We need to make our students kind of come up with some solutions. That means empowering them to take action, like the activity. There was the activity by Rayan and Bushra, I guess. So they are going to write some kind of petition. That means taking action to kind of bring a solution to that problem. Yep.
Do you want to continue, Adnan, or?
I'm done with that. I mean, are we going to continue with the presentation? We had some kind of lesson plan samples and also the news stories. Just to show some you can.
There is this slide.
So you need to share the screen with us as well.
Oh, it's not shared anymore?
No.
Okay. So you didn't see the Prezi link before?
No, I thought you were kind of summarizing it for us.
Oh, okay. It's up there. So.
All right.
So we have showing the some ideas about your social responsibility projects. It's like a bit soon to start, but not too soon to start thinking about what you might want to do. And the Prezi link is here for the lesson plan, and there are sample lesson plans here. There is more sample lesson plans posted on Canvas. And we provide
just one more point here. So it's in webinar. I mean, in Canvas, it's in week 1. Not week 1. Webinar 1. So
webinar.
Go to Canvas and then see webinar 1. You will see the sources. It's a PDF file. So all the links and videos to the link. I mean, the links to the videos are provided here. So you can just. There are a lot of them. So you can just pick one and then you can design your lesson plan around one of them. And there's also one webinar. It's around 1 hour long. So you can watch it as well. Dennis, would you like to add something here?
No, I was just showing the sources here and being there is more on Canvas. But the last thing is the lesson plan template. So use this template when you design your lesson plans, because this is how we're going to do this. So we'll we have done our first webinar. You have the blog reflection and the lesson plan, and we need you guys to do these within a week, if it's okay.
So is it okay for you to do the lesson plan and the block assignment? So, with the block assignment, it doesn't have to be very, very sophisticated. Just a piece from a textbook and then just make your analysis and then share it on your blog, so that we will be happy to read. And when we read your blog postings, we will do our best to give you feedback as soon as possible as well. And as Dennis said, while preparing your lesson plan, and this is a sample, and we will be very happy to use this template to prepare your lesson plan.
So do you see the lesson plan template?
We do.
Yes. Yeah.
So there are 3 sets of objectives, and I'll just briefly mention what they are. So, language objectives are, the objectives that you normally have, like, to practice prepositions or simple past tense or vocabulary related to environmental education. Content objectives are the content that we're teaching. So maybe globalization, or climate change, recycling, and etc.
Yeah.
And then the social justice objective is what do you want to achieve at the end of the class? And we talked a lot about social justice objectives, like, maybe raising awareness, how to become better citizens, or we have lots of objectives ourselves, like that we put on our webinar, so you can take our objectives and apply, like change them a bit. So these are the 3 sets of objectives that you have. And then, pre-activity, during activity, and post-activity. So pretty much, a very simple. Feel free to add the materials as appendix as well. So, add those here or add the links. So once we look at your lesson plan, we'll have everything, on one page.
Yeah.
So we'll post this is on Canvas, and then we'll post the blog reflection instructions again over there as well. And do you think you can do both of these in a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Denise, I think we're going to put the presentation on Canvas as well, right?
Yes, we are. Yes.
So
Yeah.
when you kind of feel stuck, you can go back to the presentation as well.
Yeah.
And kind of
Yeah.
finish the presentation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. I have. It will be a hard week for me this week. So would I want an extra time? Because my sister will give a birth. So
just email us and say, like, I'm going to need a couple of more days to do this.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, and one more thing, our next webinar will be next week, most probably, and we're going to send out a doodle post as well, just the one that you completed before. You will write the dates and the time, and then you can just complete the doodle poll, and then we will inform you about the result as soon as possible as well. And regarding the lesson plans as well, and you will get feedback from us and also an American scholar whose name is William Snyder, right?
He uses Bill.
Yeah, Bill, all right. So you'll get feedback on the lesson plans as well.
The blog posts, you can just post them on your blog. You don't need to send it to us. You have the passwords, etc. But the lesson plans, please post them on Canvas. So we'll have a thread in Canvas. So just post them over there. Okay.
Or if you have any problems with Canvas, you can send through email as well. Sometimes Canvas can cause some problems, or uploading the file could be a little bit problematic. So if you have any kind of problems or concerns, just feel free. We have multiple ways to kind of share documents with each other.
Okay, so any questions? And again, thanks, guys. We will send you another doodle link for next week's webinar. So if you like this hour, we can continue with this, but if you want to change it, also, there are options. But make sure it's like everybody has a different schedule, so make sure you take, whatever session is available for you, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Hope it's a
You too.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There.
Have a good
Bye.
night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Now will you stop recording?
All right.